I want to invite someone up on the stage to join us. He is someone who is really showing the country how to leave no one outside of our circle of care. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, an Emmy award-winning filmmaker, Emmy-nominated filmmaker, soon to win an Emmy. Are those tonight? A Tony-nominated producer. He is someone who came out to the country as undocumented, with so much courage, with great risk to himself, in order to shine a light on thousands of people in this country and ask America, how do we leave no one behind? He started an organization called Define American, truly transforming the way that we think about what it means to be American, who counts as American, expanding that circle to include all of us. I am so honored he is here tonight. He's been my brother in the movement for a very long time. Please join me in welcoming Jose Vargas.
I wish we could just listen to John Powell all night.
I
So I feel really bad that I have to now join you.
Jose, how is all of this landing in your heart?
Too much. And then I'm thinking about the indignation I feel at Berkeley Bowl. Whenever someone steals my parking spot. And you know, like people, I live in Berkeley. And apparently we're a sanctuary and we're nice to each other. But once you get to the parking lot at Berkeley Bowl, that's when, you know, gets real. So thank you for helping make sure that my vocabulary, that I'm setting my vocabulary right. This is a lot. And you know what I was thinking through is, I'm just gonna be really honest, because this is where we are. I'm gonna be 44 in like 5 months. I haven't done a lot of that internal work you're talking about. I know the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And I've met some of them and been to some of them in the process. I've was prescribed medication that I took and then did not want to take. And I think I'm getting to this point where, was it rage, pain, there was a third one. Grief. If I don't figure out how I'm gonna handle those three things, I may be in danger of being alive for everybody else but myself. I just said that out loud.
Yes.
So, I know. So my 34 relatives here in the Bay Area have not heard me say that. I'm saying it to all of you. But thankfully, John Powell, I'm here to hear it.
And
so
hold it.
I'm going to process that.
Yeah.
And then as you were talking, Sir John, thank you, by the way, for sharing where you come from, like your parents. One thing that I've never really dealt with is I come from a family where my dad walked out when I was 3. My mom put me on a plane when I was 12. And he died. My father died in 2007. And I haven't seen my mom since I was 12. So I never really dealt with that. What it meant to not have that core part of me. And then I get here at 12, and then by 16, found out that I'm not supposed to be here because I'm this illegal alien person. And basically I've spent 16 to 43, which where I am now, trying to like insist on being here. By the way, the work of the Othering and Belonging Institute is essential and the framing that you all have provided is essential. And so I try to navigate that. I am in the process of birthing a book, because that is what it is. I'm writing a book about, there are 47 million immigrants in this country, right? 11 million of whom are undocumented, 5 million of whom are Filipinos, one of 5 million Filipinos in the country. I was doing an event in North Carolina a few years ago, because like you, I've been really trying to engage as many people who want me deported, right? Like, let's talk. I'm built like as a journalist constitutionally, so I wanted to understand, how do you know what you know? Right? The theory of knowledge. How do you know that you know what you know? So I was doing this event, and I said this out loud. There's, about 5 million Filipinos here in the United States, 2 million in California, right? There are more Filipinos in California than there are people in New Hampshire, Delaware, and Rhode Island. I said that proudly. And this gentleman at the very end of the thing said, "Why are there so many of you here?" And I'm like, and he didn't say that in a clearly he had not had lumpia or ube before. And I didn't know what to say, and it wasn't a necessarily friendly crowd. It wasn't that, nobody laughed, right? And I said, "Sir, we are here because you were there."
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
By the way, 1587 is the year that the first Filipinos landed in Morro Bay, right? That's what that is. And then he goes, "What?" And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. So you don't even know why we're here, right? That America took the Philippines, right? We were your exercise in empire building. Puerto Rico was included too. And you went and took us, and you gave us this thing called English, or American English, because, grammatically. So you don't know that. So if you don't know that about us, what don't you know about yourself?
Yes.
So then, and thankfully, I grew up in the Bay Area in Mountain View, and thankfully I grew up in a place where the public library had James Baldwin and Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou, and because there was nothing about Filipinos, so in some ways, reading and really trying to understand what Morrison, when she talked about the master narrative, or Baldwin, right? Really, by the way, this is the 100th centennial of Baldwin.
Yes. Yes.
And Dr. Angelou, who always said that what we have, there's more that we have in common than we have different. All of these things. So this book I'm finishing is about, there are 47 million immigrants in this country. In the next 50 years, according to Pew Research, 88% of the population growth of America is going to come from the 47 million immigrants. Mostly Latinx, mostly Asian, mostly Black. 1 out of 10 Black people in America is a Black immigrant. 1 out of 10, right? If it wasn't for Black immigrants, the Black population would have actually decreased in the country. So when you talk about this, in listening to you, by the way, can we just give another round of applause for what you're doing is helping create a vocabulary of dealing with what that's going to mean. So when I was in Chicago reporting on the book, the same week at the DNC, and I used to be a political reporter, so all my political reporter friends were covering the DNC, but I was out there in the community trying to understand how is the Latino population and the Black population in this city, where the Latino population has overtaken the Black population in Chicago in terms of numbers, right? Chicago, which was, like the home of the great migration of Black people, right? The North Star. And now there are more Latinx people than there are Black people. And as you can imagine, there's tension. So I spent 10 days reporting that out and went to a community called Lawndale in Chicago. There's North Lawndale, there's South Lawndale, and Mexican Lawndale and Black Lawndale don't cross paths within their 15 blocks of each other. And I must have interviewed at least, 30 black Chicagoans who are born and raised in Chicago, who have been attending a lot of the city forums, and all the Venezuelan migrants, the tension between, wait a second, why are these Venezuelan migrants who just got here, why are they getting all the resources? We've been here forever, and we still haven't taken care of our schools and our communities. So really grappling with what that means. And then I met somebody who said to me, hey, I'm so sorry that you're illegal. I said, I'm undocumented, right? Like, people can't be illegal, right? And then he said something that I've been carrying around since he said it. He said, well, you just got here, man. Said it was 1993, it's 31 years ago. Yeah, but it's just 31 years. I'm talking about my great-great-grandparents. And we're still not free. So get in line. And so I'm trying to understand how, and to be honest, I'm sure my eyebrows jumped out of my face because I can't really control them. I couldn't say anything. I was just like, and then what I was thinking is, my racist aunts, when we all got here, next year is the 50th anniversary of the Immigration Nationality Act, right? 60 years next year. That's the reason why this country looks the way that it looks. So my uncles, my aunties, part of what Trump calls the chain migration, right? They started coming here in the 70s. And when I first got to the Bay Area, my aunties would say to me, don't go to Oakland. All these euphemistic, racist, anti-blacks, every immigrant family knows what I'm talking about, right? So when they say this, what do you say? Who told them that? And why do they believe it? I don't know if any of you have seen a citizenship test when you naturalize. There's nothing in that test about the Trail of Tears. There's nothing in that test about chattel slavery. There's nothing in that test about how the country got to be what it is. So to me, where we are, the country has always been incoherent, right? Baldwin made sure that I understood that.
Yes.
This country has always been incoherent. And now you added 47 million people on top of that incoherence, right? Entering this conversation mid-sentence. Mid-sentence, right? So how do we create a vocabulary speaking in different languages now that the world is all here? What is that global vocabulary in a country founded on theft, right? And in a country that doesn't really know how to talk about imperialism and colonialism. So that's what I'm trying to give birth to. Yeah.
The words "get in line" are ringing in my head. My grandfather arrived right here in San Francisco on a steamship from Punjab to California in 1913. 111 years ago, almost to the day, right here in San Francisco. And when he disembarked that ship, he was not allowed to enter the mainland because immigration officials took one look at his turban and beard and threw him into the barracks. Ellis Island on the East Coast was built as a beacon of welcome for European immigrants who could one day become white. But Angel Island on the West Coast was built specifically to detain, deport, interrogate, disappear as many Asian immigrants as possible. My grandfather would have been deported. I would not be here if it weren't for the intervention of a white man, a lawyer named Henry Marshall, who decided to see my grandfather not as an enemy or as a foreigner, but as a brother. And on Christmas Eve of 1913, he filed a writ of habeas corpus that freed my grandfather. My grandfather becomes a laborer farming in the Central Valley, and when his Japanese American neighbors were rounded up and incarcerated in the camps during World War II, he said, "I will look after your farms, I will water your fields, I will harvest these crops, and I will take the earnings to you." He traveled through the desert to Poston, Arizona to do that, so that they would have a home to return to. These acts of love I call them acts of love and solidarity, are the only reason we are here, Jose. Only reason we are here, John. And these stories of ancestral solidarity, of how we've survived in a culture that was created on murder and theft and genocide and colonization, are the only reason we will have a chance as a country. And so when I have to say, do you all, like, when you started speaking, did you all notice what happened in your body when Jose was able to be that honest with where he is in his journey? Like, my heart just, to be in the presence of someone who is vulnerable and courageously so, invites that in yourself. And when you were speaking, I was remembering in 2016, during that election season, when hate crimes were skyrocketing, rivaling what we saw after 9/11, I was a mother. I had just become a mother, and I looked into the eyes of my child and said, I'm raising my son in a country more dangerous for him as a little brown sick boy than it was for me. And I broke down. I hadn't dealt with my grief and my rage and my pain. I hadn't. I had only pushed since 9/11, since Balbir Singh Sodhi was first murdered and our community was thrown into crisis. I just never stopped. I remember coming back home from the LAX on the day of the Muslim ban, and I was in so much pain from having to show up as a filmmaker that I couldn't even pick my child up in my arms. We slept on the floor that night. And that was the first time I heard a voice in my head, you're not strong enough to live in this world. And that voice could have been, how many of us, people of color, women of color, their lives are taken, or we let our lives be taken, or we take our own lives because this culture, to face it, to be awake to it, to respond to it. I thought of you, actually, at that moment in the story, when Bibi Nanki is standing in the place where her brother disappears, and she's asking, I tried to look at you, but your eyes were closed. She's saying...
This whole thing has been so emotional that I was just like, let me just close my eyes so I don't have to,
The line was, taking all of the pain of the world into your heart and rendering it into meaning and beauty and language, does such labor come at a cost? Jose, I was caught by my mother 8 years ago, who said, come with me to the rainforest. She got me out of the country, and I know that's something you cannot do, and I so want that kind of respite for you. She took me to the rainforest for a year, and that is when I said, I'm done organizing around hate. I want to organize around the world that I want for my child. That's when revolutionary love was, where all of it flowed from that space of breath. The rainforest in many indigenous cultures is like the womb, warm and wet and safe and generative. It's a safe space from which, and I've had to learn to come back to this country carrying the rainforest inside of me, carrying the sovereign space inside of me. Jose, I want to last. I want to become an old woman. I want you to last. I want to grow old with you. And I want you to know that the only way to do that is in community. And what you have done tonight by sharing what you have shared and being willing to be in community with me, it means that we're going to be okay. Yeah.